to be much more attuned to them.
Yeah.
And I think this is Maggie Farron and maybe others. They talk about students having rich resources, which we don't really use because we don't invite them in, or we don't even value that they've got something to offer. And I think that's absolutely critical, that we do find our teaching, in my sense it'll be in my coaching pedagogy, needs to invite and entice and bring in. Then the other thing that's come through very strongly is that the way of learning in this complexity is conversation, is dialogue. It's not transfer. And what I like about it, I think I've believed in this myself, it's a collaborative activity between, not necessarily equals, they're equal in some senses, but some people have something to offer that the other doesn't have. We've got to find a way of facilitating that. And the thing I particularly liked is this whole idea that conversational is improvisational.
Yeah.
As we're talking, we're improvising, and it either fits or doesn't fit, and you can move on. And I think that also links quite nicely to some of the stuff that I've read that Wittgenstein has written. Schott has talked a lot about Wittgenstein and his whole idea of knowing enough to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know enough to go on? Which is like a sense, well, have we got enough to go? Let's go now into this unknown and see where we're going. So I think the point that Farron raises in the Vera paper she did is, when given there's all this richness, how can we systematize the process and make it public? And so I think that's something else that the teaching pedagogies have to pay attention to, rather than thinking it's something, well, it doesn't exist, or it's a nice to have. I think it's essential. So out of that comes this idea of using a more collaborative and living framework for our work. So it's an usness. It's together we're looking at something, and it's not fixed bodies of knowledge. It's a living process, and out is popping emergent stuff which we can notice and build in. So I think again, this is maybe Marie. We have to tease out what is actually happening in situations. Why? And that's how the hell do you do that? It's very difficult. So there's this sort of sense that we have to come up with new ways of trying to capture what's going on and then looking at what's going on. And there's this whole idea of using ostensive ways of representation. And as soon as you do that, we need to have different ways of capturing and representing, and the whole multimedia idea starts to fit in very nicely there, where you can see people expressing their embodied values. And I think this is Pip saying, like Polanyi, we know more than we can say. She's saying, well, it shows more than the words that are being used in there, a lot more. Yeah. Her little clip of holding the gaze of a student, very nice example. And what comes out of this is the possibility of noticing that there are life-affirming flows of energy, which you don't really get in the text. You might get on an audio, but difficult. But when you see it, it's very powerful. So there's a need for detailed analysis of these multimedia things. And I think this is Jay Conner. Text is just not sufficient. It excludes the middle, what he calls the middle. And I suppose I'm starting to think with Rayner that what is the middle? And to me, it's like there's a context, a space, and there's something in it, which for the time being I'm calling me, and I could see myself as at the vortex of a whole lot of different things. But I'm in a space, and what's happening is I'm kind of what's the word? Putting quotes around something. Bracketing. I'm saying, for the moment, this is what I'm looking at, and that's me, or that's us. But it's just a temporary line drawing. So I think that's the sort of big message I got from the contextual materials. Now, if we go to the other end, which is the research side, I think it's this whole thing of trying to capture the embodied knowledge of practitioners as they work and developing theories from practice. And this is where I started to try and get hold of Alan's ideas. And I mean, as I read it, I mean, it's quite complex, that paper, transfigural stuff, but I mean, it reminded me of other stuff I've read, more to do with the process approach to leadership, which is about, there's this complex flow, and we capture things. We say, that is it, but it's just a temporary capture. And it also felt, as I was reading Alan's stuff, back to the Chinese yin-yang thing, this reciprocal inclusion of each, and it's a dynamic thing, it's moving all the time. And I had another look at his video with the paper, and I just thought it's so clear. It's so clear. When you get into the language and you start talking about a local neighborhood in a non-local space, that sounds much more complicated than when you see him folding and holding it all. And I see, so this is the non-local neighborhood, and these are these two local neighborhoods which happened to have a line, but it's a shaping line, it's not a cut. I thought that was very, very powerful. And so I thought, there's his definition: nucleus of reciprocity, embodiment in space, reciprocal influence. I mean, it's a difficult idea, but I've come to it from a different route, and the two seem to connect. The complexity route. And I think the key thing, which you've mentioned a lot of times, is recognizing, receiving, responding to life-affirming, energetic values in energy, some sort of which you can just miss. And you just look at the words. It's very easy to miss. But in a sense, why are we here? What's the point of it all? So I think it's raised my sensitivity to that issue. And then I think this thing which I did get a long time ago, this whole idea of trying to capture how you're influencing your own learning, as well as the learning of as well as the formation in which you are, the space in which you're working. So, and to me, this connects in another way with Schotter's work, latest work on knowing of the third kind, which is very much inside-out knowing. We create our own knowing here and now, and we then project it out and see whether anyone's going to buy it, rather than trying to bring in reality from outside. So I think I've got a lot from that little review, just a couple of days, and also making connections to other people. Now, two last things I just want to say as a kind of a catch-up is that I need to do a bit more work on Alan's stuff, but I feel, just from what I know already, that I can use it as a way of problematizing each of these. I mean, I've got Alverson's kind of basic idea, but this is a tool, very powerful tool to apply to this. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, and I just got as I was coming down in the car today, I started to think of coaching, not in this context, which is me coaching somebody else. I started to think of coaching as an activity in places of education, higher education. I was thinking, actually, what coaching does? It provides an inclusional connectivity to what's on offer in universities and in workplace. And what coaching does, I mean, that's what I'm doing here, is finding a way of making it an inclusional activity. So maybe universities need to think about how can we make some resource available which helps people think more inclusionally, rather than the sheets torn in two. We've got that, and we've got that. And I haven't really got much further, but it seems to me it's quite a potentially powerful idea.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? No, that's really exciting.
Yeah. So that's the sort of backdrop, if you like, as to, in terms of where I've got to. And I suppose it'd be worth just exploring that with you and seeing,
Well, okay. Well, it would, but also it just feels that you have your thesis.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should give me this as a contextualization or capture?
Yeah.
It's a transformation in the nature of your understanding of what it is that you're actually researching and doing.
Yeah. And I do seem I feel I sort of made a move.
Oh, no, it's dramatic. No, it does. It feels to me that you've got a highly original
Yes.
thesis. You know, so I think you'll find, as you now write and work out how to actually present this in terms of a text, which can be multimedia, I think you'll find that what you'll be doing is simply clarifying some of the things that are actually on the video. So I think as you were speaking to me, you're actually, I believe, presenting your thesis. And I think you'll hear that on the video.
Right. Okay. So it's like chapter 1 or chapter 2 or something, some sort of positioning statement.
I'll tell you, it feels to me that with the latter, what you've taken me through, and you'll hear it, is not just a chapter 1 or 2, but actually you are presenting your thesis, and the sense that this is a highly original and significant contribution to educational knowledge through the development of your idea of a pedagogy of coaching. And you took me through it. So when you hear it, it won't just be chapter 1 or 2.
No.
I think you'll be able to form your abstract, you'll understand the significance of what it is you've generated in terms of this pedagogy of coaching. And you've actually got, as I said, there's highly original work here in terms of an inclusional approach to pedagogy. You know, fascinating. That was really exciting.